Welcome back everyone to another quick video. This one is going to be how to set up the ship Harkinian Ocarina of Time for Archipelago. The first step you need for any Archipelago is to have the Archipelago Launcher, which in most cases will be in the GitHub where you actually get all your AP worlds and your resources for the Archipelago. If you scroll down, it is normally this source code one. But if your game doesn't have that, or you want to find where the proper download is, there is a link to a video I've made on how to download the launcher, where to find it, and that will be linked in the description below. So now that you've got your Archipelago launcher, you're going to need the ship Harkinian Archipelago stuff. So this is the current version for when I am recording this on the 27th of August 2026. There might be an update when you're looking at this, so it might not be the version 1.2, but what you can do to find that is easily go to the link down in the description below, because I'll have this one in the description. So you just go over here and hit releases, and you're going to see on the side here the release list on what the most current one is will be up the top here. In some cases it will be on the side, but for this specific repository, it's just on the side. And you can just scroll down and you will see every single one. All right, so I'm going to break this down. I'm going to keep coming back to this repository. I'm going to do each part individually, step by step. So we're going to scroll down. You can see all these assets down here. These are the things you want. So I'm going to come back for the APworld and for the template. I'll also show you how to find the template without coming to the repository. But the first step in any part of this is to download the one that is for your operating system. So if you're using Linux, you would download the Linux version. If you're using Mac, you'd download the Mac version. Me, I'm using the Windows version. I've got Windows, so I'll use the Windows version. So all you do is click that and wait for it to download. So now that that's downloaded, what you do is you bring this in, and you can see it's just in my downloads, Ship Harkinian Archipelago 1.4.2.windows zip. And you can see everything that's in this. But since it's a zip file, you need to extract it. So you can come back to your downloads, right-click it, and there's the extract all. Or the other option is to just hit this button up here that says extract all. When you're doing this, I would suggest before you do that, choose a place that suits you. You're going to be able to find this pretty easily. Create your own specific folder. In my case, I do already have this extracted, and I've played the Archipelago a couple of times on this version as well. So what I've done is I've gone to my D drive, and you can see I've got the original Ship of Harkinian as well. This is not the Archipelago version. I tried that and it didn't work. That's how I know it doesn't work. And I've got the Ship of Harkinian Archipelago. So I just created a new folder, named it Ship AP, and then I extracted into here. So you can see all these things, and you won't have all of these files and folders in here as well. I re-extract the one so you can see, but when you actually start a game and play it, you're going to have a bunch of folders pop up, which is the randomizer, the saves, all of that. And if you have some mods, you chuck them into here. Since I'm going to extract this to show you what folders you'd actually have, I'm going to go back to my D drive, create a new folder, and do it as test. So now that our folder's there, I'll go back to my downloads, hit this and extract all, and you just want to go through and find where you made that folder. And then select folder and extract. You can hit that show extracted files when complete if you want to pop up immediately there and have another window. I just don't like having extra windows pop up. All right, now that that's extracted, this is what you'll have in your folder. So I've just finished the extraction and came straight to this. You can see you've got assets, debug, networking, game controller, readme, Ship Harkinian executable, and the Ship Harkinian.o2r. So there's a lot less files in this than what you saw in that other version. But what you do want to do is just hit the executable, and it will come up, Windows protected your PC, go to more info, and run anyway. It's perfectly safe. Now the next thing you're going to see is this saying no O2R files. So no O2R files, generate one now, click yes, and it's going to want to find your ROM. So grab your legally obtained Ocarina of Time US version 1.2 ROM, and it's just going to extract. So it took a little bit for it to actually start extracting here, but now it's going pretty quickly. Also, if your ROM of Ocarina of Time doesn't work, it will let you know, and let's go find and legally obtain another Ocarina of Time ROM. I can't legally tell you where to find them or which ones to get. Done and finishing up. So now that this is done, you're going to see a change. The ROM extracted, extract another. Already got the Ocarina of Time ROM in here, so you just say no. And you can see, go by this, and you have your Ocarina of Time playing through this. So we're going to leave it here for this part and go to the Archipelago side of things. Now that you've got this running, and if this isn't working, the most likely reason is because your ROM is incompatible. If it is compatible and it's just not working, go through all the steps slowly, one by the other. And it might also be that you might have an older version. I'm going to close that, and we're going back to the repository. So back to here, you can see the next step is the Ocarina of Time APworld. So OOT _ SoH APworld. This is what helps with the randomization, and it tells the game, hey, connect to the server, this can send over here, that's sent to there. This is needed in every game. Every game has its Archipelago world. If we go back to our Archipelago folder, which again, I also have on my D drive, you don't have to have it in the same spot. I do recommend it for ease of finding things. You'll see the core verified games will have their own things in the worlds folder, which is in the lib folder. But for all the games that are found in this sheet here, and you can see there's so many different games here. You can see the stability, there's stable, there's whole different things here. And if it's an 18 plus game, there will be a tick box here. But yeah, you can see this is where I got the Ship of Harkinian ones. You go over here and you can see there's a pop tracker pack for it, and there's the GitHub release. First one is always going to be what's furthest left. Second one's going to be second. But yeah, this is where I found the GitHub repository. There's a whole bunch, but you can see stable and unstable. Yeah. Even the stable ones do have a couple of bugs, but the unstable ones can cause crashes or really bad logic. So now we've popped back over here to the repository. And as I said, that Archipelago game sheet will be linked in the description below. But the next step here is to get the Archipelago world, the AP world. So all you do is you click on this, that will download it. So now that that's downloaded, what you want to do is go to your downloads and also get another folder up. So this here is your Archipelago Launcher folder, right? So when you downloaded the Archipelago Launcher, this folder is what was created. And you're going to see I've got quite a few custom mods. Custom ones which I've played or my mates have played. Look at all these. And there's so many more which we haven't played. Like you can see, there's Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, there's Minecraft, Mirror's Edge, Ocarina of Time, Ship of Harkinian, APworld. So that's the one that we've just downloaded. So all I did was go to Downloads and drag and drop it into the custom mod folder. But you might be going, hey Tim, how do I get to my Archipelago folder? Well, the easy way to do that, I'm going to close this so you can see. All I do is right click this and open file location. And we are back here. Scroll to the top and your custom mods folder is right there. That's all you need to do for the custom mod. Once that's in there, you're done. What I would suggest at this point is to close this and make sure you don't have any Archipelago Launcher active at the moment. So when you open it next time, which does sometimes take a while, it should be reading that there's a new custom world in there. So if it doesn't, the way to find out, this is where we're going to go over your YAML, which is the settings for your game. So now that we've opened this up, it should have read that there is a new Archipelago game there. So we'll reopen the file location. And we're going to go into the players folder. And then there's a templates folder here. So this is where all of the YAMLs that are blank are, essentially. So you got ones for Latra, should have Age of Mythology there, Against the Storm. All the custom mods that I had are in here, but as the YAML folder. So you want to scroll down and you want to skip past the Ocarina of Time one. That is not the Ship of Harkinian. That is the base game version, which in my opinion is so much worse. But keep going, and you can see it's called Ship of Harkinian YAML. And once you double click that, you're going to see your notepad pop up and open. I've got a couple of tabs open, so I've just hidden them up the top. This is what it should look like. So if Ship of Harkinian, the YAML isn't here for you, right? What we do, we close that. I'm going to minimize that. And you want to go back to your Archipelago Launcher, hit the miscellaneous, and then down the bottom, generate template options. And yes, this will be in all as well, but the quickest way to find it is just through miscellaneous. And you want to hit the open point. Sometimes it takes a couple of clicks to get it. And that pretty much forces the launcher to reread all of the custom worlds and go, oh, there's something new here. And you want to scroll down, and same point, we're back in that template folder. So we should find Ship of Harkinian. Sometimes it doesn't work and you just got to close everything and open it up again. That is why I told you earlier to close it after you'd put the APworld into the custom worlds folder, just so this forces it to reread it and understand that something's there. But now we're on to the part of editing your YAML. So Ship of Harkinian is a massive, massive YAML. It's 1,380 lines. So many. But we're going to start from the top. The very first thing, no matter what game you're playing, you should change is this part right here. It'll always be in the same location where it says name, semicolon, player number. If you don't change this, the slot name that you will be playing when the archipelago has been generated and you're playing the game will be player and whatever number slot you are. So if you're the first player that was generated in the archipelago, it would be player 1. If you're the second, it would be player 2. That's what this number in bracket, the squiggly brackets is. So what I'd do is just change this to something that you understand what it would be. And you get rid of the brackets as well. Unless you want the number to be at the end there. You could have multiple versions of Ocarina of Time and just go, I'm chilling, and then slot number. That way it will be number 1, number 2, number 3, whatever. However many slots there are and whatever number slot that version is. But I would just get rid of that completely. And then we scroll down, right? I'm going to go through what these numbers are, how to exclude locations, how to start with locations, because that can cause a couple of problems. So first thing here, this looks very complicated, doesn't it? But progression balancing, and I'll explain what this is. A system that can move progression earlier, try to prevent you from being stuck and bored early. Because I've played games where me and my mate, one of us, have been in BK mode for hours on end. But what this is, right? So the lower setting means more getting stuck. So you can have a minimum value of 0. And that's, what disabled is here. Which means you are almost guaranteed to get stuck pretty early on. Everyone else's items will be prioritized before yours. In logic. You could set it to random, random low, random high, or complete random range. Most people, I would suggest just leave it at normal. Right? But how do you change it? So let's say you wanted extreme. Right? Extreme means you're not going to get stuck most likely. You are going to be the most prioritized person for getting items. What you do is you would delete the 5 from the 50 here, and you'd come down to extreme and put a 5 or whatever number. right? Just has to be higher than 1. At least one of these after here, so this 0, this 0, this 0, this 0, this one, or this one, at least one of those has to be higher than 0. Otherwise, it won't work, and it will tell you there's been an issue, this is what the issue is. Can't have 0 as progression balancing. So in most cases, I would suggest just leave it as it normally is. But if you want to go, 50-50 chance on whether it's going to be, normal, disabled, or extreme, see what it decides. You can set all of these to 50, right? And that's a 50% chance it will be disabled, 50% chance it will be normal, and 50% chance it will be extreme. It will just pick one of them, and they're at equal odds. Which I do know the 50% 3 times makes 150. But it's saying what weight up to 99 does it say, they want this one. All of these could be 1. And it would be, out of those 3, which ones? So there's a 33% chance when those are equal. But let's say you didn't want it to be an equal chance. Let's say you want it disabled. You want the chance of being stuck pretty early on, but you don't want it a high chance. Maybe you set that to 10. Maybe you want it normal to be the higher chance of it being that, see what it's like. But if it's not normal, that's okay. And maybe you want it to be, the chance being a little bit higher than disabled or extreme. Let's say 20. That would mean that there's a 1 in 8 chance that it would be disabled, a 5 in 8 chance that it would be normal, and a 2 in 8 chance that it would be extreme. That's what that is. What these numbers here, those zeros, are just the percentage of this thing being checked. So, as I said, for progression balancing, I would keep that as 0. I'd just leave it at normal, which is equal to 50. You can also change the value specifically if you want a random range. If you wanted it to be between 50 and 60, you can change this and this and make that the 50. That is how that will work. And it will be a random value instead of being between 0 and 99. It would be 50 and 60. Accessibility. These two are always in any YAML, your progression balancing and your accessibility. But what this is, it tells you up here what the setting is. Right, this whole part where it's the hashtags in front, that's a note setting for coding. That's it telling you, hey, this is what this one does. So you can see accessibility, set rules for reachability of your items and locations. If you set it to full, ensures everything can be reached and acquired. If it's minimal, it ensures that what is needed to reach your goal can be acquired. The rest really isn't. So again, this is just chance-based. Every time in any YAML, you're going to see the 0s and the 50s. And that's it. It doesn't have to be a 50, but 50 is what most commonly used. And you just set that to whatever you want. Then you go down, and it's the same thing. Closed forest, it tells you what this is and what the options are. So, if it's on, the Kokiri Sword and Deku Shield are required to access the Deku Tree, and completing the Deku Tree is required to access the Lost Woods Bridge exit. If it's Deku only, then the Kokiri Boy no longer blocks the path to the bridge, but Mido is still there requiring you to have the Kokiri Sword and the Deku Shield to access the tree. And if it's off, Mido no longer blocks the path to the Deku Tree, and the Kokiri Boy no longer blocks the path out of the forest. So you can see it's just explaining what each of these settings are, and then down here underneath you can see it's saying on, which is referring to this one, Deku only, which is referring to that one, and off, referring to that one. And you, again, just set whichever one you want to 50, or set the chance of all of them to whatever percentage you want. And you do this for all of the settings. I'm not going to go through every single one, because that would make this an hour-long video. But then the other thing I'm going to mention here is the tricks in logic. So parts where it's words that have to be put in instead of the numbers. And you can see tricks in logic define which tricks or glitches are to be considered in logic. This is purely for logic. It doesn't mean you can't do the trick. So let's say bomb tube beehives over here. That's just saying it's expecting in logic you could break them with arrows, you could break them with bombs, you could break them with bomb tubes, you could break them with slingshots, whatever settings you've got. And this is saying for bomb tubes to be able to break them. Because bomb tubes will just run over them normally, unless you time them right. Grottos without agony, that's just, do you know where every single Song of Storms grotto is? If not, then it's not going to, I wouldn't suggest putting this in, because otherwise it will expect you to know that just by running over and playing the Song of Storms, or blowing up the area, you know, blowing up the tree near Hyrule Castle, or the tree near Kakariko Village, to get into those grottos, without the Stone of Agony popping up in the corner, or the vibrating your controller going, hey, there's something here. So, read through all of these and decide, do you want these in logic or do you not? I would suggest actually putting them in logic if you do know how to do them, because then it's going to be more likely something useful. Because a lot of things in logic, if you do them out of logic, it could be a late game item, but it's not going to help you progress then and there in the early moment that you are. So read through these, and what you do is, let's say you wanted to do Bottom of the Well Navi Dive and Lost Woods Navi Dive. Just copy over, highlight over them, copy, and in these square brackets, paste them. That's it. So every single one, you can go cat group top, gold sculptula. You want to make sure that there's a comma after each one with a space, and just put every single one in here. Now, I actually don't follow my own advice, and I keep these out of logic because I'm lazy and I don't read through every single one of these. So, as I said, you can still do these checks themselves if you know how to do them without putting these into logic. That's probably a better idea. That way, you can get the logical items sooner rather than later. Because if these aren't in logic, then they're not going to be in logic until you have the vanilla item to do it. But then scrolling down, well, again, starting age, a lot of people like doing that. 50% chance of being adult, 50% chance of being a child. I'm going to scroll down and just keep going. It's the same process. There's all the descriptions up here with the hashtags, and then the settings without them. So you can see vanilla matches with vanilla. Tokens matches with tokens. Greg matches with Greg. And you set your settings whatever you want them to be. But in cases like here, where it's multiple options for the Rainbow Bridge, you're going to see down here, bridge stones required, and this is only if the Rainbow Bridge is set to stones. If you don't have it set to stones, you can completely ignore that part. In this case, I've got it set to Greg. So, you can see Rainbow Bridge Greg modifier. This is where I'd scroll to. And if Rainbow Bridge is enabled, Greg will count towards the bridge requirement goal. And all the settings. Then you just set that. If there's anything you're not understanding about setting up the YAML, put it in the comments. I'll happily help you wherever I can. In some games, like Ocarina of Time, there's also different types of win. So you can see in Triforce Hunt, there's pieces of Triforce with courage have been scattered across the world. Find them to beat the game. So once you receive all of your Triforce pieces, Ganon's boss key will not be shuffled in, and the light arrow cutscene will revert to its vanilla behavior. When the required amount of pieces has been found, the game will save and the credits will roll. That is when the game will send every item out. Afterwards, you can still load back into the game. You'll receive Ganon's boss key, and if you want to beat Ganon, you can go beat him. It's not going to be part of the archipelago, but there's the option there. So you can see there's multiple ways to do the archipelago and win. You can do Triforce Hunt, and you can go beat Ganon. Alright, so pause the video now if you haven't gone through and gotten all those settings done. every setting up until the item and location options. This part is where I'm going to show you how to start with some items which aren't already in here. You've got some things which are already part of this, like start with Kokiri Sword, start with Deku Shield, start with songs, and whatnot. Now you've got all those settings done, let's go through. So what is all this part down here? This is in every single Archipelago YAML, and it always starts with local items. What this is, it tells you, it forces items being in the native world. So if we wanted, say, Bolero or Fire to be in the native world, we'll go with Bolero or Fire. The next part, non-local items. This forces them to be outside of their native world. Let's say you wanted the Water Temple boss key. You just type it in, and you do need to capitalize every word in these, at least for ship Harkinian. And then we got start inventory. So this is a little bit different from what's below, which is start inventory from pool. So let's say we wanted to start with the child's wallet, and we didn't select that earlier. What you put in is progressive wallet. And you do need to do the semicolon 1, like in the example up here. You can do it as more than one. You could go to adult's wallet with 2, giant's wallet with 3, tycoon wallet with 4. But I'm just going to leave it at 1. But the difference between start inventory and start inventory from pool is that this wallet that we've just collected and we're starting with will actually still be in the inventory from pool. So if we were to say light arrows, or we could still receive light arrows later on, and it would do absolutely nothing. It would just be another filler item. But if you were going to use something progressive like the progressive wallet, that would mean there's an extra wallet in the pool, which increases your chances of actually getting to Tycoon wallet or Infinite wallet if you have that set on. Whereas with start inventory from pool, you can see it says start with it says start with a specified amount of these items and don't place them in the world. For example, bomb 1. So it does say the game decides what the replacement will be, which is it will most likely be filler or traps if you have traps enabled. But in this case, you'd use something like light arrows where it doesn't actually have another one if you wanted to start with light arrows. And that removes it entirely from the item pool. You won't receive the light arrows again. Whereas if you were to put progressive wallet, you'd still get the other progressive wallets, but there would just be the exact amount still. Then with start hints. So when you're doing an archipelago, if you haven't already done one, you might not know that you can actually hint items with the command !hint. And then you type out what it is. The most common, usually light arrows, Gen's boss soul, those sorts of things. So you just type them out and you'd be, let's say you wanted light arrows. And you don't need to capitalize it for hints normally. It normally goes, oh, you're close enough, let's just do that. But you could do light arrow and it would normally show up as well. If it doesn't, it will say, did you mean light arrows? And unfortunately, you can't just say yes and it will do it. You have to retype the whole thing out. But in this case, let's say we wanted the progressive scale hinted. Which the progressive scale is used for swimming. You would get the bronze scale if you have the ability, the inability to swim, the silver scale, and then the gold scale. So the start location hints is based on the location, not the items. That should have been pretty obvious, but sometimes with the descriptions, they're not as clear as what you'd hope. So you start with these locations and their item pre-filled into the hint command. So for this, you want the location itself. Let's say you didn't want to have to do child stealth. So you go Song from Emperor. We're going to go over and we can see. So in this, we hinted where the progressive scale was to start, which we can see in the hints. That's where they are. And we can see what the Song from Emperor is, and that's Nocturnal Shadow. So that tells us, hey, that's where those are. Awesome. And then we can just go through it. As you can see, I haven't started anything at all. So continuing on, we've got the exclude locations. Places you absolutely don't want something. So let's say it's the water temple compass chest. We'll just put it in like that. And the water temple compass chest will always be a filler item in that case, or a trap. So you know, you don't have to worry about that. Priority locations. This is the complete opposite of the exclude locations. You want this to be important. We could say that's the Kokiri Sword chest. So the next thing is the item links, which this is kind of what it sounds like. A little bit interesting. I've never actually played with it myself. But when people are playing the same game, so let's say you have someone else playing Ocarina of Time, and they get their light medallion. You can make it that you get your light medallion too, because they've gotten theirs. Now, I don't personally know if both players need this on or not. I believe you probably do. But you could do every single medallion, just shadow medallion, whatnot, and so forth, right? Just put every single one in there, in between the two square brackets. So, with Plando items, I've not actually played this myself either. I don't normally do Plandos. I do like the random aspect. But from what I'm seeing, I'm going to test this out as well. It is a bit more complicated, bit of coding sort of stuff.
20 minutes later.
Alright, everyone. So that took me quite a while to get that sorted. I will copy and paste this into the description as well as an example for Plandos, because what those issues were is, first off, the layout, the spacing is very specific. So what I would suggest if you are planning on doing a Plando is, let's say you want to change Biggoron's sword to the Goron tunic, change that to Goron tunic and just leave it as that. If you only want one strength upgrade to be planned, then you change that to 1 instead of whatnot. But that was one of the issues, is the spacing. So if you're going to add things, all I would do is go into this, copy it and do that, place that and paste it underneath, so you know the spacing is going to be accurate, and change this name to whatever you're going to do it as. Same with locations, change these locations to whatever you want the locations to be. Or if you want more, again, just shift click up, copy, and then paste at the end of one of the others. If you want new blocks, go in here, do that, and then do that. Simple as that. But so I'm going to put that into the description as an example block, so you can copy and paste that and edit it however you want to. That was one of the issues, was the spacing. The other is, since I copied this block from the Ocarina of Time example guide, because I've not used a Plando myself, the item names were not correct, because Ocarina of Time Archipelago and Ship of Harkinian Archipelago use different names. For example, Biggoron's Sword is Biggoron's Sword here rather than Biggoron. So if you're confused about that, that's understandable. It takes a fair bit to understand. What I would suggest, if you're coming up and saying this isn't a valid item, is to create an archipelago without the Plando, bring up the spoiler log. So if you're after the bow, just go up here, Control F, and type in bow. And you just scroll through and you see that's progressive bow. And then once you've gotten what the wording is, change this to exactly what it is. Just copy and paste from that spoiler log. If you don't know what the location is, again, use the spoiler log. Go, okay, I know it's somewhere in Dodongos Cavern. So type out Dodongos Cavern, go through and go, that one sounds about right. But now that that's done, I'm going to show you guys how to generate and host one of these. So you've got your YAML now finished completely how you want it, whether you've got a Plando or not. What you want to do is go in and save as, and it will probably take you to this folder since you got it from the templates folder. You want to go back one step to the players folder and name this whatever you want to name it and save. Since I've already got one there, I'm going to replace it. That is all you need to do with your YAML. All right, so now that that's all closed, we're going back to our Archipelago folder yet again. We double check, you can see the ship Harkinian YAML is in the players folder. That's the one we've just edited. If you've got multiple people playing, you need to put all of the YAMLs in here. So for example, let's say I'm playing Clover Pit with you as well, and Luigi's Mansion. So now we've got all 3 players in the players folder. So one player might be playing Ship Harkinian, and the other player might be playing both of these. It could be 3 different people, it could be one person playing 3 games. It does not matter. From there, we go back to the launcher. And you can go to all, you can go to miscellaneous, whichever, and you just want to hit generate. That will bring up this command panel, and it's going to just work its magic. And it's saying there's a couple of things that it has in place to remove things, like to move locations that were unimportant, or to actually make room for the things that have been given doubles. But you can see that just disappeared on its own. So if we go to Archipelago folder again and go to output, there is now a zip folder here. Nice and simple, that is what it's just created. But I'm going to recreate one. I'm going to go back into here and I'm going to make it that there's no progression balancing. Right, so this will be an error. It will come up saying there's no progression balancing. Just so you guys can see what the errors look like. So it still comes up with this, and we're going to see some purple text down the bottom. It's not going to finish. So you can see, encountered 1 error, and if it's multiple errors in the same file, it will only give you 1 at a time normally. But you can see, ship file, ship Harkinian, so it tells you what the file name is, also who the player is, and it's saying it's invalid. Please fix your YAML. The error, all options specified in progression balancing, so it tells you where, are weighted as 0, which caused options error generating option progression balancing in ship Harkinian, which just says, hey, there's no progression balancing, all of it's weighted at 0, fix it. So all we do is change this back. I'm going to change it back to normal. I'm going to save, and that will work again. So we'll hit generate, and you'll see that's now going to work. All right, so now that's all generated, that's ready to go. But one thing that might confuse you if you just don't delete these is it creates a new zip file each time. You can use the date modifier to see which one's which. I normally delete them in between, but that's up to you on what you do there. But once you're at this point, you're ready to host the archipelago. And despite what you'd think by seeing host in here, I would go to archipelago.gg and I go to start playing. I have a bookmark directly to this page here. So if you're just playing one by yourself, you're going to generate a random game, and that will upload 1 or more YAMLs just for yourself. But you've already generated the game. So you go down to this one down here, host a pre-generated game. We'll come here saying host game, upload file. You navigate to that output file, and you just select the one that you want to play. So there should only be 1 file in there if you've only created 1. From here, if you want the spoiler log, I would suggest, control clicking to bring that into a new tab. But you need to create room, and you can see we've got all 3 games. There is your room code, and you've got the patch files for Luigi's Mansion, which that's going to be on another one. Ship Harkinian, you don't need to download any patches. The next step from here is to go back to your ship archipelago. You relaunch this. Actually, I should use the test one so you guys can see exactly what's in here. So you can see this has actually gotten more things since we've played it once, and we've gotten the O2R in. But we launch that. You get your controller ready. And you're in. From here, select your file, and you go across. So you can see you've got Vanilla Ocarina of Time, you got the randomizer, you got Boss Rush. You want to select the archipelago one. So from here, it's going to say there's no data. If you've played one before, it'll actually have this in. You can reconnect just by pressing start. but change connection info, and this little window will pop up. So from here, we grab the room code that we've just made. So bring this back over. This part here, so you can see archipelago.gg semicolon 58593. Already got the archipelago.gg semicolon. Change the number to 58593, and your slot name, well, this one was Tillin. If you had the number after it, it would be Tillin, whatever slot it is, so Tillin1. Now, there is a way to create passwords for your archipelago, but easy way to make it that you don't need a password is copy the URL and send it to anyone that's playing, and don't share it anywhere else. But if you are streaming or something and this pop up, then you probably do want a password on your archipelago. To do that, that's back in your archipelago folder, down in the host.yaml. And you can see password, it will be set to null. You can change that to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Whatever you want that to be. So that is how you would put a password on one that you're generating yourself. Back to the actual archipelago for Ship Harkinian, you can go down and you can change the options. You can put death link, damage link, trap link, limit console output, and send hints to the archipelago. That's up to you. It will give you that option anytime you launch this up. So I can connect, and you'll see that's connected. Then I close it, and if I want to go back into that, I can just select that again, and you can see all that again. But once that's done, start the archipelago. And you see I've just connected another client here. But I'm going to put that over the side so you can see, hey, there, ship comes with a ton of options, blah, blah, blah. This you've probably already seen if you've got the standard Ship Harkinian downloaded and ready. But I just go, got it, let me play, name your link, and you hit start. So I'm going to pop into there. Yeah, start with the light medallion, nice. And I've got Link's Pocket. And all the things I started with, and geez, that's loud. So you can see I started with light arrows, I started with that. From where I said start with. One thing I would suggest, if you played Ship Harkinian, you've probably done this before. If you haven't, you might not know, you can just press escape. This is the thing that the pop-up was telling you. And you can change all your settings in here. So master volume, graphics, controls, your inputs, notifications, the mod menu. So if you've got mods, they'll show up in here. And you'll be able to know what's enabled, what's not. You can go through, do some quality of life. So nighttime sculptures, spawn day and night, pull the graves during the day, don't pay appears all night. Good little quality of lives, skip some speed ups, all the way down to cheats where you can, have infinite money, health, ammo, all those little cheats. But yeah, once you've set all of the things in here to how you like it, you can change the item tracker, entrance tracker, all that sort of stuff. And if you're playing multiplayer, you can see in here, there's all the Archipelago console window where you can type in hint Biggoron tunic. And this will actually say, I don't have enough points. Can't afford the hint, you have 2 points and at least 26. So that's based on the host YAML on how many is there. By default, it's set to 10%, so I've got 260 checks most likely. I hope that's explained everything very clearly and easily. Once you're at this point, you can just run around, do everything that you want to do. If you have any questions or issues, jump into my Discord or put a comment, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you're in the Discord, you've got a better chance of being able to ping me and me responding a lot quicker. The link to my Discord will be in the description below. With that said, hope you guys have enjoyed, and if you're struggling at all with other games setting up for archipelagos, consider subscribing. I'm going to be releasing a couple of those, all the ones that I play, and as I play new games, I'll be releasing a new video on how to set them up so that you guys know as well how to set them up and get that ready to go. But with that said, hope you enjoy your archipelago.